Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sneha, and today I'm going to share my favorite eyeshadow palettes from the year 2019. Now, some of these may be launched in 2019, while others may be slightly older, but these are generally the palettes that I use the most in the year 2019. So let's get started. Now, I've categorized them just so that it's easier for us to get through these palettes. So, starting off with the best travel size palettes, hands down has to go to the Viseart Theory palettes. In particular, I have two favorites. I've depotted all of them and the Petite Pro 2 in the Z palette right here. But the favorites that I've included in my top palettes are Minx, which is this palette right here. I just think it has these beautiful everyday neutrals, so you can create a really nice matte look with these three shades. I'm talking about skin tones similar to mine, so just keep that in mind. So for me, these three shades create a really nice soft smoky eye, like a brown smoky eye, or I can create an all matte eye look with this, very work appropriate. Or I can go in with any of these shimmers on my eyelids and use these two matte eyeshadows to deepen up the look. Really versatile palette, and I can get very wearable looks with this particular travel size palette. The next travel size palette I've chosen is this one, which is Chroma, which is so underrated, I feel like. But anytime I need a dark smoky eye, so anything with black or grays or silvers, this is definitely the palette that I go for. It's absolutely beautiful. The only shade that I don't get much use from is the white shade, which I probably should get rid of from this palette and put it in my freelance kit. But all the other shades are absolutely beautiful. My favorite especially is this shade. I've spoken about this previously as well. It's just the perfect blend of gray and brown tones, which makes such a beautiful transition for any dark smoky eye. So I absolutely adore this palette. So these two are definitely my favorite travel size palettes. But another palette that I do get quite a bit of use is Siren. So if I had to pick a third one, that would be it for the best travel size palettes. What's also great about these palettes is the packaging, because these pans are removable. Say, for example, you want to carry all mattes during your travel. I can pretty much carry maybe these two mattes, and those two mattes, and be okay with creating different matte looks, or carry more shimmer eyeshadows if I want to, and reduce the number of mattes by mixing these different theory palettes. Also, with the Viseart packaging, with the newer packaging, so say Milieu, Koi, or even the Grande Pro 2, any of those can fit into the small theory palette packaging. So it's a brilliant concept. I absolutely love the idea for travel size. Next, talking about best all matte eyeshadow palettes. Hands down, this should be of no surprise. It is Viseart. I have two palettes that I've picked up. The first one is my current obsession, which is the Milieu palette. Now, although I've purchased this only like a month or two ago, I've used this almost non-stop since I've purchased it, and I have quite a bit of use from this. This is probably my one palette if I had to choose just one for an all matte palette, especially for my skin tone, and I would say slightly deeper than me. This is fantastic. I have my perfect transition shade, which is right here. That's very close to my skin tone, and that's what I have on my brow bone even today. And as you can see, it just makes for a very natural brow highlight, which is what I like. So it's very close to my skin tone, and I absolutely love that. Many other palettes lack that kind of shade, which is why this is another favorite of mine. And then anytime I want something to deepen, I have so many shades to choose from as transitions. And then for deepening up, again, I have two colors. So I have a really nice dark brown or a really nice deep purple shade, which look absolutely stunning. And they are so pigmented. These ones, I don't know what they did about this Viseart palette, but it's absolutely brilliant in terms of pigmentation. And as always, the blending is also like a dream. Another thing I like about this palette is that there's some pops of colors. So if I want to incorporate some blue as a liner or even as an eyeshadow, I can go into that. I can go into this brilliant pink shade, I can go into this red, or even this deeper orange shade. So I feel like this is probably hands down my favorite all matte palette. A close second, which should come as no surprise, is the Viseart Grande Pro Volume 1. And you know what can I say about this? It's perfect, especially in my freelance kit. For me personally, I kind of omit the first two columns unless I want a brow bone highlight. I can go with the second column, kind of some of the shades. I generally tend to use the last four columns on me personally. Again, it has neutrals, it has pops of colors. Again, the same kind of reasons that I love the Milieu 2 for. Just that Milieu 2 I feel like is more catered towards my skin tone. Whereas with this, I can cover a wide range of skin tones. Therefore, this lives mostly in my freelance kit, and this stays with me for my personal use. Next up are best palettes with all shimmer eyeshadows, and I have a few to choose from. When I want something very subtle and probably more sophisticated, nothing too glittery or glitzy, I tend to use this palette, which is the Viseart Sultry Muse palette. Now in the pans, these probably look like duds or boring eyeshadows, but they perform absolutely beautiful on the eye. And I would say if you are more into bridal artistry, this is a beautiful palette because it's just very soft, muted colors, but still shimmery, don't get me wrong, and with beautiful pigmentation, but just that the finish of them is just very sophisticated and elegant, if that makes sense. So that's what I tend to use this palette for. Personally, for my skin tone, my favorite shades are this one. I always get compliments when I wear this. And then some of the pinky and these brownie tones. And because the finish is satin, you can also blend these into the crease and it almost looks matte. So even these darker shades, although they are shimmery or satiny, they tend to look like matte. So it's kind of a versatile palette. You can use them all over the eyelid for catching the light or use them in your crease. So again, a very nice palette. Some shades that I don't get much use from are generally the whites and the silvers from this palette, but overall all the other colors do get good use from me. The next palette that I would pick for all shimmer palette is one of the newer palettes I've purchased, which is the Koi palette. And this one, if you haven't experienced crystalline formula from Viseart, it's like glitter suspended in eyeshadows, but very fine glitter. So that's one of the shades I have on my eyelid is this purple shade right here, like a purple lavender shade. That's predominantly on my eyelid, and I have this shade in my inner corner. But although it looks so ordinary on camera, I guess, when you are in indoor lighting, like the yellow lighting of your bathroom, you can literally see little specks of glitter dancing on your eyelids as you blink. So beautiful formula. I love the colors. There's so much option to choose from. And some of these are also duochromes. This one in particular is so unique. It's like a peach, but with a green shift. I don't know if you can maybe tell on camera. That's the peach. And then you can see maybe a little bit of green on there. So it shifts beautifully, and I really like that about these eyeshadows as well. So that's another pick for an all shimmer eyeshadow palette. And lastly, for shimmers, what I would consider the mother of all shimmer palettes is the Viseart Grande Pro 2. And as you can see, it has received quite a bit of love. I use this on myself. I use this for my freelance work. I take it pretty much everywhere. I absolutely love this palette. So if I had to pick one shimmery palette from all the ones I've discussed, I would probably pick this because I get so many different textures. So the column one here is the same crystalline formula as the formula in the Koi palette. So I do get that formula, although the colors here are quite light. Then I get some shade columns like the second one and the sixth one where there's flecks of glitter running through the eyeshadows. So like bigger flecks of glitter. So I do need to use a mixing medium with this. So that creates a very different finish from these two columns, which are like really rich, shimmery eyeshadows, which I absolutely love. And they're probably my favorite columns. And then this one, which is a row full of duochromes. So I get so much variety in terms of the different textures and finishes that I absolutely love this palette. I don't think any palette can ever beat this, but we'll see. But as of 2019, this is definitely my favorite all shimmer palette. And lastly, I have palettes, which is like an all-rounder where we have a mix of shimmer, matte, maybe some a little bit of more glittery shades. And I have 4 picks. The first one, which is my absolute favorite and which also was purchased later in the year, is this palette by Jackie Aina and ABH, which is absolutely beautiful. If you're a woman of color, I highly, highly recommend getting this palette. I would say this is perfect for anybody with a medium to dark complexion, but at the same time, these colors would definitely show up on the lighter skin tone spectrum as well. Just that you have to be brave enough to wear color. It's not going to appear subtle on your skin tone. Again, it's a very well-balanced palette. You do have warm tones, you do have some cool tones. So I think it's a very nice palette to have, and you can create so many different looks with this. I have created a 3 looks 1 palette using this particular eyeshadow palette. So I'm going to link it right here as a card. Next up is another palette which I especially use when I'm working with medium to dark skin tone because I know I can trust the pigmentation on these, which is my Pat McGrath Mothership Volume 3 palette, and this is what it looks like. Some of my favorite shades from this palette are this black. Look for intense black with minimal fallout. This is what I would use. This brown is an absolute favorite, and so is this stunning pinky purple shade, and this particular duochrome, which is like a purple blue kind of a shift, and the gold is stunning, and also this particular peachy gold kind of a shift eyeshadow is absolutely beautiful. Now, because of the heavy packaging, I don't use it as much in my freelance work, but definitely when I do have a client who has dark skin, I do try and carry this palette as much as possible, just because I know I can trust the pigmentation, especially for the brown and the black eyeshadow. But otherwise, I absolutely adore this palette, and I've got quite a bit of use from this palette this year. And the last 2 palettes that I would like to recommend, the first one is the Persona Identity palette. So this is the Volume 1, the first palette that Persona ever created. This, I would say, although is beautiful for medium skin tones, I would say this is also lovely for light skin tones because you do have some of the lighter shades right here in the top row, especially these 2 shades, which I tend to struggle with. I don't get much use from those, only as like an inner corner highlight or something, but all the other shades show up beautifully on my skin tone. So again, it's a palette that's really nice. You do have the steeper brown shades and some medium shades right here to deepen up any look. It's another palette that I would recommend checking out. And lastly, I couldn't complete this video without including the Sunrise palette by Natasha Denona. This is what that looks like. Again, it's a very well-balanced palette, I would say. It leans towards being very warm-toned, but it does have some cool-toned eyeshadows as well, and a bit of neutrals as well, so I think it's well-balanced. Just that I wish it had more deepening shades, just like a dark brown or a black or something in here that's missing. But otherwise, the palette is really nice, the textures are really good, and the matte eyeshadows blend really well. And I do have a 3 looks 1 palette video, which I'm going to link right here. But that's it. That's all my favorite eyeshadow palettes of 2019. If you had any favorites or recommendations for me, definitely leave it in the comment section below. Would love to hear from you. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!